everybody, welcome to another episode of Best of British Blackwell. I've got a real feast cooking up for you today. I'm going to be making some breaded pork loin chops with creamed cabbage and Hasselback potatoes. I'm going to be showing you how to make all three components of this dish. So come over, let's make a start straight away, have a look at the ingredients, let's get going. Okay, so here we go. Because I'm making three elements of this dish, I'm not going to go through the complete ingredients list. It would just take too long and the board would be completely full. So as and when I'm making things, I'll tell you what I'm using. Look at these beautiful, lovely pork loin chops that we've got here. These are bone-in, so they've got a piece of bone here along this top corner, and they're skin on as well. So what you could do, if you weren't going to be breadcrumbing these like I am, you could just roast this down. You'll get a lovely piece of crackling off of this skin. You'll get a lovely, juicy, big heart of meat in the middle there. And you've also got the kind of darker pork meat on the side here. These are absolutely beautiful. But, as I said, I'm going to be putting these in breadcrumbs, so the bone is not a good idea to have in. So what we're going to do first of all is debone this. I'll show you very quickly how to do it. You've got a kind of, almost like a T-bone steak. You've got a bone that runs across here and a bone that runs across there on the top, and it's all in one piece. So what I like to do is, with my fingers, take off as much bone shard as I can. As you can see, I've got a little piece of bone there which I've managed to pick off. Then I just get my knife, I put it all the way through the steak, or the pork I should say, and cut just along the back. That separates that part of the bone from this part of the loin. Now, there's a natural line in this loin across here, but there's also a little bit of meat at the top. So what I'm going to do again is put the knife straight through the steak, turn it slightly, and cut away from myself. And the knife will follow the line of the bone. There you go. So that's through now. And then all I need to do is get the knife through the middle here and just snip along the middle. There we go. Now the bone is completely separate from the meat, and we haven't managed to lose too much meat on there. Next step, we're just gonna, with our fingers, this is the most important part. Nobody wants a rogue piece of bone in their meat. So just run your fingers along the loin steak, paying particular attention to the cut side. Just make sure there's no bone shards left in there. Next thing that we're going to do is get rid of this skin. Now what you could do with this is set it to one side and make yourself some homemade pork scratchings or some crispy pork skin. Personally, I'm not going to do that today because I'm trying to be a little bit healthier than usual. But if you wanted to, you could set that aside, salt that up, vinegar it up, put it in a nice high heat oven, and crisp that up lovely. Now, we've got a beautiful pork loin steak here. Just get rid of these odd pieces. But because we're going to be breadcrumbing it, again, I want to get rid of this layer of fat and sinew around the outside as well. So just using a nice sharp knife, slightly different knife here, I'm going to be cutting this piece of sinew away. And as you can see, it's going to take a few cuts, but as long as you take your time and you're nice and careful, you'll cut the sinew and not the flesh of the meat, and you won't lose too much meat. So there we go. So I'm going to carry on with these, trimming these up, but I don't want this sinew here. As you can see, it's quite tough. I don't want that on my pork today. So I'm going to trim these up, and I'll show you the next stage for preparing the pork when we come back. So now that we've got our pork chops trimmed up, as you can see, all of that fat and sinew has gone from the side. They're a beautiful lean pork loin chop now. What we're going to do is get them coated up and breadcrumbed. Very similar, if you saw my chicken Kiev video, it's very similar, just slightly different ingredients. What we're going to start off with is some flour. We're going to get some seasoning into this flour. Salt, pepper. This is almost like, if you've probably heard of pork schnitzel before, it's quite a famous German dish, but what the difference between mine and the traditional German dish is that they would hammer this piece of meat out to make it as flat as possible. I leave it intact. We add a little bit of curry powder to our flour as well. Let me just grab a fork and stir that up. The other ingredients that we've got here is there's a beaten egg in here. These are panko breadcrumbs. I'm not using, with the chicken Kiev, I think I use panko breadcrumbs and normal breadcrumbs. I'm just using panko breadcrumbs here. A little bit of curry powder dusting into the panko breadcrumbs as well. Just adds a nice flavour to that pork. I won't show you all of these, I'll just do one. First of all, pork chop straight into the flour. Try not to make as much mess as I've just made there, but actually that's half the fun of cooking these. Make sure you're nice and coated, decent coating of flour. It's going to help the egg stick. Straight into the egg, both sides, turn it round, plenty of egg covering. Make sure it's all completely covered. The more covered it is in the egg, the more breadcrumbs it's going to take on. Straight in to the breadcrumbs. Give it a nice covering. Nice breadcrumb coating on the top. Give it a good push down as well, that will help the breadcrumbs stick to it. Make sure you're covered front, back and sides. Then all we're going to do is throw this onto a plate over here, and once all of these are coated up, as you can see, once all of these are coated up, we're going to stick them in the fridge until we're ready to cook. Okay, so creamed cabbage. It's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a beautiful, rich cabbage dish made using Savoy cabbage, nice big green Savoy cabbage, perfect this time of year, bang in season at the moment. It's got some double cream and it's got a little bit of parmesan and a little bit of garlic as well. Really beautiful. Prepping the Savoy cabbage is nice and easy really. Lots of people tend to throw these outside leaves away, mainly because they kind of take up a bit of they've always got a bit of soil on them and they're a little bit awkward to clean on a Savoy cabbage. So what I tend to do is I just cut the bottom stalk off. That's a thick nasty part of the cabbage that you don't really want. Cut the cabbage through the middle, and then you'll see you've got this heart through the middle here, which again isn't very nice. So what I tend to do is just cut in a semicircular motion around the cabbage and just pull that out. There you go. Not going to be very tasty, that bit. Once you've done that, what we do is we lay the cabbage flat down on the nice flat part, so you're not going to be wobbling around with the sharp knife. Taking the sharp knife, we're going to be cutting this into shreds. That is the type of texture that you're looking for. Straight into your pan. See how it just falls apart? Perfect. Carry on with that. Again, show you a few more slices. Carry on with that, do the whole cabbage, and then what we're going to do is just parboil this. Okay, Hasselback potatoes. What are they? They are a variation on a baked potato. It's almost like an open baked potato. So what you do is you get some nice big potatoes, then you slice very thin, narrow lines in the potato, but not all the way down. And then what happens is as you roast these potatoes, they open out and you add some lovely garlicky butter over the top as they roast. Now, little tip for you. You won't see many people do this, but it's actually a really good tip. I've had Hasselback potatoes before, and when they're made using a large potato, they're not cooked in the middle. They tend to burn around the outside and then be raw in the middle. So my tip for you is this. The bigger the potato that you're using, stick it in the microwave for about 5 to 10 minutes, just to soften the inside. It starts to cook the inside and won't cook the outside. You then take it out of the microwave and then you put your cuts into the potato. Then you add your garlic butter. So we're going to do that. We're going to wash these up, get them in the microwave, and then I'll show you the next step. While your potatoes are cooking in the microwave, make a start on the garlic butter that's going to go on these potatoes. So what you're going to want to get is 3 or 4 large garlic cloves. Give them a crush. Makes them a little bit easier to peel. Then we're going to get some salted butter. I'm going to use quite a lot of butter because it's almost, you're going to baste the potatoes in these. So I'm going to take about 2/3 of this pack of butter, get that into the saucepan. All you're looking to do with this garlic is chop it up a bit, not too fine. You're going to strain this out a little bit later anyway, so it doesn't need to be pretty. It doesn't matter even if you leave a tiny little bit of garlic skin in there. I'm just going to chop one of these cloves up so you can see what I'm up to. That will do nicely. Get that in. Now, get this over the hob, melt this down, let that garlic infuse with that butter, and then we're going to strain it so we're just left with the melted butter. Okay, so our potatoes have been in the microwave now for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, hopefully you can see that, they've started to cook through. But they're by no means fully cooked. It's just going to guarantee that these are cooked in the middle because they're quite a big potato. Now what we're going to do is get these ready by cutting them. Now you'll see a lot of techniques where some people put spoons parallel to the potatoes here, and it stops you cutting all the way through. My advice is that that doesn't always work. So actually what you need to do is just be very careful and take your time and don't rush this. What we're going to do is make a cut in the potato with a sharp knife, but we're not going to go all the way through. Hopefully you can see there. I've gone down and I've left about 10 mil either side. Open it out a little bit more. There you go. Leave a thicker gap at the end here, and then move across, cut another slit down the potato. And that's the kind of thing that you're looking for, where you can be able to open these potatoes out. So keep going. And when these are all done, I'll show you the next stage. Okay, potatoes are done. As you can see, we've got a nice deep slit in each one of these potatoes. Now what we're going to do is grab our garlic butter. First of all, we're going to put these into a nice deep roasting rack, a roasting tin with some greaseproof paper. Here is our garlic butter that we've been melting down. What we're going to do with this is strain it, because I don't want the garlic cloves. I'm going to put this to one side. Now just before these potatoes go into the oven, we're going to get our pastry brush, and we're going to literally butter every cut in the potato. So using the bristles on the brush, push in and make sure that you get some of this beautiful hot garlic butter inside every crevice in this potato. Make sure it's as coated as it can be. It's going to take a little time, but trust me, it's worth it. There's no quick way of doing it. As you can see, it's taken me a few seconds to open the potato out. Just be gentle with it. Open each crevice. Make sure you can get the brush all the way in there, and you're gonna, hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Sorry, my hand might be in the way. I'm just opening up every crevice here, making sure that the brush gets in there and pastes every single bit of this potato. I'll carry on with that. I'll finish this off. Then what we do is we get this in the oven on about 160 for at least 30 minutes. Then we bring it back out and we baste again. We're basically going to be basting this 3 or 4 times. The more you baste it, the more flavour you get in. The crispier those potatoes go. They're going to be lovely. Okay, so these Hasselback potatoes have been in the oven now for about 20 minutes, and as you can see, a couple of things to note here. This, the end of this potato here has just fallen apart a little bit. That's completely my fault. That's where I've cut a little bit too deep. It is still attached to the potato, but obviously, aesthetically it doesn't look that good, so I'm not so pleased with that. But elsewhere here you can see that the ridges in these potatoes, let me see if I can get a little close up for you. There you go, you'll see the ridges in these potatoes are starting to open up really nicely. So what we're going to do, as I said, is get our butter, and then we're just going to start to drip more of this butter in through the gaps in these potatoes. You don't have to force the brush into them now, because the potatoes are already opening themselves, and you just let this seep through. Now these go back in the oven, keep it on 160, another 20 minutes. We're not looking to cook these too fast, but we are looking to crisp them up. Add another layer of butter, another crack of salt, straight back in the oven. This is our third basting of these potatoes. As you can still see, I've still got plenty of this garlic butter left. Just making sure that it gets deep within the crevices of those potatoes. And as you can see, every time I baste these potatoes open out just a little bit more. Another little tip for you, if you start to run out of the baste here, don't worry too much. All you need to do, take them out of the oven, dip the brush in here, then baste them with what's left in the bottom of this pan. I'm not going to show you any more of the basting now. I'm just going to get these ready so that they're ready to just eat. Okay, so our potatoes are still in the oven. We've parboiled off our cabbage. Now what we're going to do is get a lovely bit of browning on these breaded pork loin chops. And all I do for that is get a nice deep frying pan, plenty of oil in there, and then we just shallow fry these for just a couple of minutes on either side. Okay, so this has had just short of 2 minutes on either side, on the first side. Now what we're going to do is turn it over, and as you can see, that is the kind of texture that we're looking for. Beautiful golden brown. Now, don't worry about the pork inside not being cooked yet. That's not what we're aiming for in this. What we're going for here is to just brown those breadcrumbs off. We're going to finish these pork chops off in the oven. They're going to go in with the potatoes, and when everything's ready, it's going to come out and be a lovely dish. So don't worry too much about it yet. You're just getting a little bit of colour on these breadcrumbs, but you don't want them too dark, okay? So when these are done, I'll transfer them over to a pan. I'll show you exactly what they're going to look like. Okay, both sides of these chops are done now. So what I'm going to do is get a little baking tray over and just get that in here and turn that around so you can see. You've got a beautiful golden crumb texture all the way around this lovely pork chop. Like I said, it's not going to be cooked all the way through in the middle. So what we do with this now is get it in the oven. That's going to go in at about 180, and that's going to need about another 15 minutes. Now, okay, so let's move on to the cream cabbage now. Our pork chops are in the oven, our Hasselback potatoes are in the oven. This is the final part of the dish that we need to prepare. I'm just melting some butter into a nice hot wide pan. This Savoy cabbage has been parboiled or braised, if you like. It's still got a nice texture to it. It's not overcooked, as you can see. And all we're going to do with this is just add this into our pan. I'm not going to use it all. Just enough so it covers the pan completely. One little bit. It will wilt a little bit more, so don't worry about that. You can always add to it. So that's in with the butter. Now we're going to get a decent crack of black pepper in there. This hob's on number 7, so it's quite warm. Not too hot, but certainly not a low heat. And then all you need to do is just toss this cabbage around so it picks up some of that butter. Okay. So with this cream, when we add it slowly. If you add too much too quickly, you're going to lose all of the heat from the pan. Also, the cream's going to thicken up really quickly as well. And whilst we do want the cream to thicken, we don't want it to go too thick. You know, we don't want it to be too kind of thick and creamy. So we just add it in bits and pieces. The other bonus to adding it slowly is that you can make sure that every bit of your cabbage is completely covered, just by adding it in dribs and drabs. Now what we're also going to do is add some of our Parmesan cheese as well. So there we go. All of the cabbage is now soaked up a little bit of the cream. Then we're going to come in behind with some grated Parmesan. We will add a little bit more. We'll just keep building up the layers of ingredients in here. Again, the heat is down quite low now, so you're not worrying about burning anything. And then we'll get to the point where you can't see much of the cream on the bottom of the pan. That's when you know it's time to add a little bit more. Add a little bit more parmesan, add a little bit more black pepper. Keep building up the layers of flavour. As this cabbage has wilted down, I've added the rest. So that's a good tip for you. Don't add it all in at once because you'll overload the pan. First lot has gone in, first lot of cream has gone in, first lot of pepper and parmesan has gone in. We've wilted it down, tossed it around a little bit. Now we've added the rest. A little bit more cream in there. A little bit more black pepper in there. And some more parmesan. And again, we're still on the low heat. So we're just going to keep moving it around nice and slowly. Here we go. We're ready to serve. Look at this beautiful Hasselback potato here. Lovely and crispy around the outside. You can hear that crunch on the skin on the outside, and then you've got some beautiful buttery garlicky potato on the inside. What do we serve up with that? Well, our pork loin is ready now. This has been out of the oven now for about 2 or 3 minutes, just ready to rest. And what we're going to do with this is just stick that on the side there. Again, you can hear the texture of that. Beautifully crispy, that's going to be lovely and moist on the inside. I'll cut that open for you in just a minute. And the only thing worthy serving this up with is some beautiful creamed cabbage. Just take a look at that. Get that over the side there. Take a look. The reason that you use Savoy cabbage is precisely this. Look at how that cabbage just holds on to that beautiful creamy cheesy sauce. Just take a look at this. We've got a beautiful pork loin chop covered with lovely golden panko breadcrumbs with a Hasselback potato and some creamed cabbage. It's absolutely superb. Let's see if we can have a good look at the inside of this pork. I hope you can see just how lovely and moist and tender that is. Absolutely superb, guys. Please give it a go at home. Please like and subscribe. I'll be in touch with you soon with another video really shortly.